If I asked you to get a piece of paper and something to write with, and to make a numerical list of all the things that you would be willing to die for, how long is your list?
About 48.
Willing to die for.
About 48.
Willing to die for. How long is your list?
What is the tribal self?
About
The
48.
tribal self is what goes above the immediate acquaintances of the social.
Willing to die
The
for.
family, the people you know, live next door.
You would be willing
I'm
to
talking
die
about
for.
tribal self.
About 48.
I'm talking about those movies, those yet unheard.
Things that I noticed, and we already talked about this, but I got to see it really, firsthand in my face in the field, is that the N.B.P.P, the new Black Panther Party name is complete mud out in the field. People have false understandings of what that beginning is, where it comes from. Like, I'll give you an example. When I went and met Fred Hampton Jr., and Fred Hampton Jr., he didn't really discuss it with me, but he discussed it later, and I don't want to go into details of that because I would actually hope to be able to convince the brother to come on and talk with us about some things. But when I met him, one of the brothers introduced me as being from the new Black Panther Party and coming up under Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Now, even though, we was there when Dr. Khalid Muhammad came into the new Black Panther Party, I did not come up under Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and I corrected that. I told the brother that now actually I came up under Aaron Michaels and David Foreman. Dr. Khalid Muhammad was recruited into the new Black Panther Party after it had already been built, after the ideology had already been developed, after the organizational structure had already been, started being corrected. He came in later. And as we talked about before, Dr. Khalid, being the son, being as big as he was, he essentially eclipsed anything and everything else. And the problem with that, and the respect and love we have for Dr. Khalid, his legacy has been tainted by the people who was left behind to carry his legacy. There's been a negative, stigma to that, and I kind of wanted us to kind of discuss that or talk, which we've talked about it before, but I kind of want us to kind of talk about it and talk about, just discuss where our viewpoint comes from, why I would even correct somebody from saying that, no, I didn't come up under Dr. Khalid, I came up under, Aaron Michaels and David Foreman. I wanted us to get into that discussion a little bit and have that dialogue, and what's the difference, and one of the things, another thing, and I want to put this out here, and I know you brothers can be able to come on this and talk about this in greater detail, because during a lot of this transition, I was out of the picture. So I was trying to explain to a lot of the activists at this conference that was asking me the questions, that there was essentially two different organizations that developed under the same name, New Black Panther Party, to a degree, or different iterations of it, or different kind of almost like a denomination, like a Christian denomination.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I wanted y'all brothers to kind of go into detail a little bit on that and explain that for the listening audience.
So, real quick, I would like you to say, can you elaborate on when you say the name was Mud? What specific things turn people off or make people feel bad about the organization?
Well,
and you don't got to name no names. Yeah. Just give the context of what actions or items or things that they either didn't do or did do.
Well, one of the things that one of the sisters said to me that I was talking to and chopping it up with, she said she brought two sisters actually brought this up. Two separate people brought up the fact that they had heard that the new Black Panther Party had misappropriated funds. They got funds from the community or got funds donated and never used those funds the way they were supposed to have been using. That people in the new Black Panther Party were just taking funds from the community and using it for their personal needs. That's one of the things that was brought up specifically. Other things was just they never put details on it. They just you'll hear not real Panthers, or they not connected to the original, or they not respected, things like that. One person said the most that they would give was this person had strong opinions about the new Black Panther Party, and you could tell by the tone and the expressions that those opinions was 100% completely negative. And again, it's without understanding what the new Black Panther Party was, what it did, and then what it ended up becoming. I think that those they come from that.
Okay, let me start with that first one. So the first one has to do with people, and I'll have to say this will probably be more not only just maybe even top level leadership, but individuals that were taking money from the people. I personally dealt with that when I lived in Atlanta. I had to go down and actually shut down some of that type of operation, and I would put that in the category of one of the biggest issues that we had when we expanded too soon, too fast. And let's kind of just use that as the linchpin. The deal is when Khalid came aboard and officially came aboard, and him and Aaron sat down and agreed that this is going to be that they're going to run the organization jointly, and that it was a mutual decision that Khalid would be the forward face as the chairman, and Aaron would be the Minister of Defense. Khalid was going through a transition with the Nation of Islam, where he built up a powerful base of people that wanted to basically continue to follow him as a, and was just honorable. I would just say they're loyal to him, as opposed to being loyal to the works and the I would say in the religion of the Nation of Islam. This to me is the first strike in the biggest issue, because if I'm in the Nation of Islam, I'm in the Nation of Islam because it aligns with my religious and spiritual principles in terms of how I see we should live our life. But if I'm going through an issue with somebody that maybe brought me into that knowledge, and they are leaving the Nation of Islam and then transitioning to becoming a new Black Panther Party member, but the new Black Panther Party is not a religious institution. So if they're having issues with the Nation of Islam, but they don't go and start a new branch of the Nation of Islam, instead they all of a sudden deal with being a community-based mobilization and organization that is about directly dealing with the politics of the community and politics of self-empowerment, community advancement, and so forth. So the deal is these are two different things. Mind you, obviously, a right protocol within the Nation of Islam would be that we are doing a lot of things for the community as it applies to community empowerment, Black empowerment. But it in of itself is about my relationship with God. So if Khalid jumps from one aspect of or should I say one institution to an entirely different institution, and my loyalists follow me to that institution, now all of a sudden they still looking to me for their spiritual and religious guidance, but that is not my operation anymore. So if I'm teaching at a college, and then all of a sudden I go from teaching in a college to teaching a wilderness program, that's two totally different things. But you following me because of your loyalty to me. You're not following me because of my religious and spiritual guidance. So the biggest issue with that is that people jumped into a whole different institution of operation and followed him, as opposed to recognizing that I need to be loyal to my religious and spiritual practices. So behind that, the quality of membership that we received, for the most part, were people that were not prepared, and not even I would even go as far as not actually wanting to be Panthers. They wanted to be Khalid loyalists. And so with that, you get people that may have certain problems and certain issues on their personal life in terms of some things as to how their ethics in terms of community activism. Now, mind you, I can be a member of a church, of a mosque, and be going through some things that are unethical, right? But again, it's all about me being a part of this because I'm trying to better myself. But once you step into the sphere of community empowerment, you are now the face of what it means to be an upright person that is about serving the people. I don't have to be that as a member of the Nation of Islam, because my thing is I'm involved in this to better myself. I'm not a forward-facing person. Now, maybe as a minister or someone in a high-end position, I can say, yes, all eyes are on you and people are watching what you're doing. But as an average person that attends the Nation of Islam, it is not about me serving as an example to the community, because I am trying to lead the community and build the community. But if you become a member of go from being a member of the Nation of Islam to now a member of the new Black Panther Party, where it's about serving the people and all about what you can do for the community, as opposed of what this environment can do to make you a better person, then that's a completely different paradigm shift. And by me just following a man, being a loyalist to a man, I am going to bring from this institution the quirks and things that I need, and that I'm working on, is guiding me to become a better person, that has not been where it should be yet, all of it to that other institution. And now that other institution don't provide those services that I need to be a better human being. It's about serving the people, meaning you already are supposed to be on that path. So Khalid may be on that path, because Khalid, again, was somebody in a high-end position within the Nation of Islam. But his followers, the ones that were loyal to him, that followed him because of his spiritual guidance, are not going to get the same plate of nutrition that they got when he was under the Nation of Islam, because it's a totally different environment, atmosphere, and operation. But yet now all of a sudden we go from 3 or 4 chapters to 30 chapters literally overnight, because you have mosque members that were part of mosques all over the nation that literally followed this man to an entirely different operation for the sake of following him, because they believe in what he is, not in what he's doing, but what he is. So right there, let's just say right there, everybody that came on board because they followed Khalid, not because they wanted to serve the people, not because they wanted to get into community empowerment, not because they believed in self-determination as Panthers and wanted to go through a school of development before they even became an activist in the community. They followed a man because of his gripes and his confrontation with a previous organization. So right off bat, that tells you that you are setting yourself up for failure as someone that is a loyalist, that is following a man because you following a man. So then I'm going to bring with that new environment all of the negative things that I am suffering with, going through, and battling with myself, which happens to be, in this example, somebody that is stealing money, somebody that is hustling in a negative, from a negative perspective. But yet I'm supposed to be serving an organization that is empowering the community. So if I'm going to look at this now as my hustle, because it's not a church environment. It is me being out in the community, and I got people handing me money. When I was sitting in a bench on Sunday, learning in the mosque, having a minister, provide that spiritual and a religious guidance to me, I don't have people walking up in the mosque and handing me money and saying, I like the work that you do. Please help us. Ain't nobody walking into a mosque and just handing a random person money, because that's not the environment of the mosque. But when I'm a Panther, it's supposed to be out in the community serving, and people see you, And they be like, hey, I love the work that y'all are doing. And when they say that, they're referring to the fact that of the entire body of the organization as what they know to what Panthers are supposed to be. So not only do the people being misled and misguided, but not knowing the difference between what Panthers are, and quite frankly, they shouldn't have to know, because we all should be aligned in what we are and serving the community. So therefore, when they are operating, the community operating off this false pretense that a Panther is an honorable person that is putting their life on the line, that has fully accepted the concept of revolutionary suicide, revolutionary discipline, and revolutionary development, then I, as an individual in the community, straight up assume that all Panthers are honorable. All Panthers have my best interests and the community interests at heart, and that they are willing to die for the people. But that is not the case, because this person came into the organization because they followed a man, not because they want to serve the community. And when that man is obviously not able to go around and obviously not being able to be broadcasting on a Sunday morning and giving me my spiritual advice and my spiritual duties and my spiritual orders, but yet that man is basically saying you need to go out in the community and serve the 10-point platform and 9 local objectives, which, mind you, one of the catches of that is that the Nation of Islam has a 10-point platform, which is very familiar and very identical to the new Black Panther Party's 10-point platform in terms of some of the structure. So therefore, you would think just on that premise alone that members of the Nation of Islam that are operating as Panthers now would have some of the foundational things in place to where they could do that. But yet the environment is not requiring me to be honorable, because I don't have somebody coming up to me and pat me on the back and giving me kudos and willing to give me their resources so that I can better take those same resources and distribute them to people who don't have those resources. I'm not given that level of authority. I'm not given that level of confidence and access to people that want to be helped in the Nation of Islam. So that is the biggest element and problem with that, is that all of their people were released into the community without a proper protocol, a proper training, and a proper screening, and for the proper reason. They didn't join the new Black Panther Party because they believed in the mission of the new Black Panther Party. In fact, they became a Panther member without any damn process in place, because they literally followed somebody that was placed at the top of the ranks of the organization, who had not themselves had to go through a process. He went through a process, which was a failure on our part, then there would have been a transitional period. During that transitional period, that would automatically have to make everybody else go through that same transitional period, and they would have been weeded the fuck out.
So what I'm hearing, and I'm just gonna summarize real quick. What I'm hearing is, okay, you have 2 separate organizations. I'm gonna ask y'all brothers to kind of, and I know that that'll be a long video, but just I'm gonna ask in a few minutes, so I'm gonna give y'all time to think on it, because a lot of people don't understand the differences between being a Black Panther and being a member of the Nation of Islam. A lot of people, and I talked to some of them at the conference, think that the Nation of Islam is just the top tier, premier Black organization, and anybody that comes from that, that's Malcolm, that's Farrakhan, that's Elijah Muhammad. Anybody that comes from that just has to be on point, and everybody else just essentially the children of those figures. But so think about that, the differences between a Black Panther and a nation member. But basically what I've heard is essentially that, to summarize, boom, we was building the new Black Panther Party based off Panther ideology and revolutionary principles in Dallas. We were small, because when you're trying to do the right thing, it would not get large, at least not as fast as you would want it to be. One of the things that he always argued about, to this day, he's always argued about, is that less is more. Let's focus more on our quality and not our quantity. So Dr. Khalid came into our sphere, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when the Greenville church burnings was happening. He came and participated with us, learned the Dallas chapter, liked the Dallas chapter, liked the way Aaron moved, the way David moved, the way the organization moved, that the brothers was not afraid, the brothers had guns. We was young, we was real idealistic back then. We believed that righteousness could stand up against anything, and Dr. Khalid saw that and liked it. Liked that we was courageous like that and bold like that. Even at his funeral, if I remember this correctly, when Farrakhan came over on the screen, when they played the video of Farrakhan on the screen, one of the things that Farrakhan said was he likened Dr. Khalid to a wild stallion that no man could ride but God. And he told a story about when he was rebuilding the Nation of Islam, Dr. Khalid was his security. And he said that Brother Khalid, he didn't call him Dr. Khalid, he said Brother Khalid. He said Brother Khalid had this big Bible that he carried on the stage with him. And he said he used to wonder to himself, man, what's up with that Bible? He's security, he's not preaching, he's not giving a lesson, so why is he holding this Bible? He said, so one day he asked Brother Khalid about the Bible. And he said Brother Khalid opened the Bible up, and the Bible had been cut out, and there was a gun in the center of the Bible. And he told him, no, brother, we have Allah. We don't need that. But he said then he knew that Dr. Khalid was on a different trajectory. And when he went into the new Black Panther Party, he said that he felt that there was a better place for Brother Khalid. At least that's what Farrakhan said. And I'm just giving just a little history. So when I wasn't in those conversations, in those meetings, Aaron would probably be better. Aaron and David would probably be better to have those conversations. But for whatever reason, whatever they talked about, they agreed to bring Dr. Khalid into the organization. There was an assassination attempt on Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid was able basically to come down here to Texas and get security from Aaron and the new Black Panther Party at that time, which was the only new Black Panther Party. There was no Malik, there was no none of these other people, none of these other brands that have come up. It was just Aaron, David, that brand that was in Dallas, period, at the time. And Dr. Khalid saw what he liked, and they brought Dr. Khalid in as the national chairman, with Aaron as the national minister of defense. Now here's where the error comes in, as what you just said. Well, they brought him in without the process. He was Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. This is the guy that traveled around the world. He's staunch revolutionary. They believed that he was revolutionary and he was ready to take the organization to a different level. So they brought him in and essentially put him in that seat of chairman. And when they brought him in, people that followed the man, not the mission, people that followed the man, not the movement, people that probably wouldn't have never thought about becoming a Black Panther or putting on a Panther uniform and probably didn't give a damn about being a Black Panther, followed the man into the new Black Panther Party in order to just be with him. And even to this day, we still see and hear a lot of these people, Dr. Khalid, Dr. Khalid, Dr. Khalid. Even when I was out in, when I was in Chicago at this conference, again, when I was introduced to Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., I was introduced as somebody that came up under Dr. Khalid. And so therefore that name recognition it hits harder. Don't nobody really know the name of Aaron Michaels really. They don't know the name of David Foreman. They don't know these names. They don't know the Robert Wall Williams. They don't know the people that were boots on the ground putting in the work. So they say these names, these catchphrases. Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad is a name to say. So basically, essentially, that's where the organization went awry, because people came into the organization that was never dedicated to the organization. And it's something to think about, because if these were staunch in all the respect that people keep giving to the Nation of Islam, why did these people leave the nation? Why would they leave the nation? Because a man shouldn't even be the foundation of their reason for being in the nation. The mission of the nation should be their foundation for being in the nation. So that's a deeper question to ask with that. So to come back to this, what's the difference between a Panther and a member of the Nation of Islam? What are some of the basic differences? Go ahead.
Let me. I'm gonna let E jump into that, but I want to say this two parts to segue into that. Someone that is basically thinking of the nation of the Panthers of being something out of the Nation of Islam, or that a person within the Nation of Islam is already at this level, is no different than me saying every Christian in the world wouldn't dare to sleep with the pastor, and the pastor's married, or wouldn't dare or the pastor wouldn't dare be sleeping with the congregation, or that person, a member of the congregation that is a person that is a Christian. Every single Christian within the Christian congregation is holy as thou. That is why when we talking about a religious institution, would you believe that the entire body of a religious institution is at the same level that the leadership should be at?
Mm-hmm.
That's false. That's a false pretense, that a false narrative that I bought into from I don't know where. That is not published. The Nation of Islam, nor any religious institution, has ever published that all of our members are at this level. So that just simply has to do with people, I don't know, not studying, not knowing what the hell they seeing. That's akin to somebody saying, well, I don't like communism. Communism is bad. And then I ask you, well, what can you tell me about communism? I don't know. I just know it's bad. Well, how do you know it's bad? Because I've been told it's bad. But what did they say? I don't know. It's just bad. So the same thing goes to a religious institution. If they have this perception of what it means to be a member of the Nation of Islam, because a lot of the forward-facing things that you would see is showing some disciplined brothers in bow ties that look very sharp and intellectual. But that is an image that has been projected. That is not the day-to-day struggles of a person that is a part of something to better themselves. You're not seeing what's really happening. And it's no different in a church.
Yeah.
Someone goes to a Christian church and they sitting their ass down in that congregation because they need some spiritual healing. They need some spiritual growth. They not there because they're at this plateau. If they were at that fucking plateau, they'd be one of the damn disciples that are out in the community doing this goddamn work, evangelizing. That's what they would be doing. So that's just a mistake on people's lack of actual research, as opposed to looking at a goddamn quick 30-second soundbite Instagram video and thinking they know something, or whatever the case was back then. Second thing, and then I'm gonna be quiet. The mistake that was made that you talked about making an exception is no different than any organization or any operation or any personal principle. If I have a certain quality and checklist that I have in a mate, that before I engage into a marriage relationship or a full-fledged lifelong relationship with a person, and I make an exception, well, they are like this. They like to wear whole clothes, and they like to go out to the club, but they got a nice personality. I'm gonna make an exception. Guess what you just did? You just ignored the tall tale signs that you getting with a hoe, and you made an exception because you like this person. You like one element that they have to bring, that you see that they could bring to the relationship, without looking or making sure that there is a process, and you ignored that process to verify that this person is a match for you, because you like one thing so much that you made an exception for the other things, not realizing or psyching yourself out, confusing yourself that this will overshadow and those things will work themselves out. So the organization, us within the leadership of the organization, made an extreme mistake by making an exception. When you make one exception to a rule, a foundational principle rule, then that opens the floodgates for you to eat that exception later on down the line in that relationship. And guess who you can blame on that? Yourself. No fucking body but yourself.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And so we made that exception because it was Dr. Khalid, and it ended up essentially destroying the relationship. I'm gonna ask something about that in a minute. Another thing that was notable, and I would like y'all to speak on this. at the conference, I had a brother attempt to combat my version of the history of the new Black Panther Party with what he had read in Malik Zulu Shabazz's book, the Book of Khalid. And I would like y'all to speak on that a little bit, as far as he thought that essentially, and we do that, essentially he felt that since it was Malik and it was in a book, somebody wrote a book about it, that had to be the truth. And one of the things I was telling them, I was like, I understand, I like to read too, but I was there. I saw these people. I was literally there. I'm not making this up. I'm not creating this out of the sky. I didn't write a book about it. I was literally there when this stuff was happening, when it was taking place. So I want to know y'all's ideas on, the version. How much credibility can a person reading the book take and think that they understand the new Black Panther Party from reading the book?
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna use the same religious context that I'm using already when we talk about the Nation of Islam in the Bible. You can take the Bible, and I can have a misinterpretation of what's being said, and I can run wild with my own interpretation of what is being said, and it could not be lying to me. I'm giving that book a benefit of the doubt and say, well, maybe everything in that book is true. But if my interpretation is this, and someone else's interpretation is this, and then the author's interpretation is this, then we got three different opinions and three different directions and three different viewpoints on the same damn text. So, and I can even go further on and say that I know that the Book of Khalid has not came with book tours, interviews, and in-depth operational speeches and background stories that that people have went into with that book. I've yet to go to or even hear about a Book of Khalid book study. And so in saying that, if those kind of things were being done, then people would be breaking down that book and trying to find the source code of what's being stated in that book. And then that in itself will reveal what's true and what's not true. That book is not actually a historical book. It is written in the perspective of one person's viewpoint on this person's life and the trials, tribulations, and directions of their life, and what they thought or what they wanted to project about this person. It's no different than how you would go to someone's funeral, and most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, everybody's got something good to say about this person, because they're not going to speak on the things that may have led to this person even getting their ass shot and end up in the coffin in the first place at that funeral. They're going to just talk about the good things, and they want to talk about things from a nice perspective to make everybody feel good and walk away thinking that this person died in a or lived a specific life that's going to grant them access to something on the hereafter on a positive note. So the Book of Khalid, as it applies to that, there are some things that are false or create a false narrative or false perspective in that book. But at the same time, if somebody is reading something and they don't do their proper research, because that is not the only book that's even written that goes into the new Black Panther Party. So if they are reading just that one book, and then they gonna come up and they talking to somebody that is actually, I'm sorry, I knew I feel froze. If they're talking to somebody that is actually a part of the formation, mind you, they didn't even ask you before they decided to tell you what it is to be, what happened and what it is to be a new Black Panther Party. Even if I am a corrupt member of the organization that is misrepresented, if I walk up to you and tell you what it is to be a new Black Panther member and what I've read about something that I'm not even a part of, nor have I ever been a part of, and not even asked you, why did your organization do this? Or why? I'm not even going into the inquiry of with someone that is a part of this, what it is that y'all are. I'm just gonna tell you what a new Black Panther Party member is. Then I actually am doing a disservice to myself, because I am not going to the source for the source of information. I started the conversation off telling you what a new Black Panther Party is, a new Black Panther Party member is, or what a Panther is. I ain't served under any Panther formation and Panther ideology at all. So here I am having a conversation with a Panther, an actual Panther, telling him what a Panther is and what he's doing wrong. And I ain't even asked him yet. So do you see something wrong with that picture right there?
I see a lot with it. Yeah.
And that is actually part of the narrative, the false narrative that a lot of people do in the community. Again, if I've been fed certain images that tell me that all Panthers are all people within a certain organization or a certain thing, let's just be honest about anything. There's always going to be some bad seeds at a certain point within anything that has to be weeded out. If you happen to run across that bad seed before you get introduced to other things, or before it gets dealt with properly, and that becomes your introduction to something, a lot of time that's going to stick with you, especially if we talking about first impressions. But can no organization sit up here and say that, I would say a large scale organization, that there ain't somebody at some point that was not fit to be a part of that had to get taken out of that movement? You don't know nothing that's on a large scale from beginning to end can say that they never had somebody that had to get weeded out. And as long as you're doing a weeding out of somebody, that means it was not their place to be a part of this. But during whatever small period of time that they was a part of it, they was misrepresenting. And so let's just not have this false, I would even go as far as to say messiahship perspective about it. Go ahead, E.
You keep saying the same shit over and over, and I disagree with all of it, or at least the niceness of it. Hey, let's just call it what it was. The book is bullshit. I don't give a damn. I'm not gonna be nice about it. There were lies in there. How the fuck? Okay, this dude was close to Khalid. That's fine, but he knows nothing about the party prior to Khalid getting there. So his understanding of who we are and what that dynamic between Khalid and the party, he's not gonna have any authority to talk about it because he don't know shit. So if somebody's reading that book and that's the gospel about us, and somebody stands next to him that says, no, I was there, I can tell you where this is right and wrong, that's somebody that's just, at least at that point, is useless. If you're going to stick to it, it's the same religious bullshit, like you just said, applied. But for me, a large part of it is that we keep just not calling it what it is. It's bullshit. And everything that came with Khalid, and I've said it, I'm not even going to say it. Everything that came with Khalid, and we knew it at the time, everything that came with it was bullshit. Period. All of that shit. So much could have been avoided by bringing in folks and letting in folks, and so much could have been accomplished had we have been allowed to maintain our focus on the community and not being flooded with this starstruck mentality that came along with Khalid. You know, we got a bunch of teeny bopper groupies that came into the fucking party that weren't even thinking about doing the work. They were caught up in the limelight. And anybody can read a book and look at somebody, you know, I'm nobody fucking special, but there's some things that I can tell you that are not in that book, that are wrong in that book, and da-da-da-da-da-da, because I was there. The fact that someone was there no longer has any real meaning, especially when you enter that brain type. So, I mean, I've never hidden even to his face my disdain for Malik, and 99.9% of everything he ever did in regards to the party and really the movement. I don't have a problem saying that. I'm not in his camp. I was one of the ones that opposed having Khalid join the party because this shit, you know, it was obvious it was going to be an attempt to turn the party into a baby nation of Islam, a nation of Islam that carried rifles, bringing those two I don't know, images or part and whip up a frenzy. That's all that shit was about. period. And we got caught up in that. We allowed that shit to happen. Never should have happened. Worst thing that ever happened to the party, period. Wasn't Khaled's assassination. That wasn't the worst thing. Worst thing was we joined up and allowed these people who had no idea what the ideology was or was becoming, nor were willing to do the work, into the party and start making decisions for the party without any type of cultivation, without any type of actual washing of their minds, washing of their brains, to get some of that bullshit out, or at least spark the conversation of having a different perspective on what it is we were supposed to be doing. What they were used to was good enough for the church, for the mosque. It was good enough for Greek, the frats and the sorors, because it was all about positioning and posturing and being able to say we did some community work because we gave some sandwiches to somebody. Fuck that. That's a bare minimum. That's an entry level type of shit. You ain't but just getting started and having an idea what this shit is about for some shit like that. When you get to the point where you do it regularly and do things for the masses, only to have them spit in your face and you smile and continue to do it, when you can work through shit like that, and I mean that not just the literal sense, but all types of levels, then you're starting to step into it, into understanding. But these cats didn't come from that type of legacy, that type of background, and particularly not with the mindset and the energy that we were working toward. Yes, they were building things in the community, but even the bulk of those things were centered around a religion. If you weren't a part of that sect, you could benefit because you're part of the community. But to really be a part of what's going on, you had to be a part of that organization. That's counter-revolutionary to me. And that is, in fact, why I say, though the Nation of Islam may be a step in the path of Black liberation theology, it's not Black liberation theology, because it takes the focus from Christian slave mentality, religion, and points it in another direction. It still doesn't hand it over to us, which is what Black liberation theology is designed and meant and defined as doing. It gives the narrative back about God to us. So they can't be, because they're giving it to Muhammad and a bunch of other cats with foreign names and looking at foreign places. So it's not. It's a step. It's a step out of the gutter. It's a realization, just like for Malcolm. It was a step out of the gutter for Malcolm, but he didn't stop there, and we can't stop there because it's not the end. But folks that came in believed that was the end. This is what we're supposed to do. And whatever the religious Hebrew Israelites, anybody, even people in the party, they think party is it. That's it. That's our Pan-Africanism is it. That's it. That's the problem. We were working on becoming growth oriented because the community has to fucking grow. And the community can't grow if we don't grow, because we keep piecing in on the same bullshit that keeps us in place, and we have to get beyond that. And that was our purpose. That was our direction. That's what we were developing. And then you bring this brick wall in and just stop it all dead in the tracks and have people looking at other shit. It's fucked up when the cat who writes a book about Khalid and claims to be telling some magnificent revolutionary story, when he was confronted with the reality that one of our members was facing serious penitentiary time, this nigga didn't do shit. He didn't write a letter. He didn't look into it. Not even just some boots on the ground cat. A cat he knew of, had heard speak, and understood the mindset and mentality. It wasn't just no nigga that wanted to come around, smoke weed, and say Black Power. A cat who was actually about somebody that we could have used out here to continue to do the work. Maybe wouldn't have this issue if we'd been able to maintain our position. But because the numbers were overwhelming, it was like 2 or 3, maybe 4 of us that were actually, once the cat left, 2 or 3 or 4 of us that actually were still working to push in that direction, while Khalid and Malik and all of them had all of these magnificent numbers and ability to travel the country. But yeah, when you take somebody out of the picture who can actually think and be a part of the positioning and the pushing and the propaganda and the direction of the party, and you have a cat who could at least do something to intervene for one of the primary soldiers, a future capo or whatever you want to call it, type of cat, and he won't lift a fucking finger. So yeah, I took this shit personally. I mean, I don't give a fuck. It fucked us up. It further pitted issues that we had amongst ourselves. Differences of ideology and opinion, because you had a bunch of cats from different backgrounds, street cats, college cats, old cats, young cats, all of this coming together. So we were already bumping heads and having friction, but it heightened that. Khaled's presence heightened that because some of us got caught up in that shit. Some of us transferred that to Malik. Some of us ran and hooked up and went with that Malik nonsense. You know, so it just forwarded this schism within the chapter and made us that much weaker. So no, it was the worst fucking thing that happened to the party. Fuck it, not even the police. That shit did more harm to us than the pigs did. Period. That's
Let me say this just as another example. Again, like it's a relationship. I made an exception in regards to the mate that I wanted to bring into my relationship and have a lifelong tie to. That person, that mate, has some kids already. When I talk about the people that followed Khalid, that all of a sudden grew. So basically, I enter into a relationship. Maybe I have one kid. Well, my mate that I made an exception with, they got 20 kids, and they baby kids. I made the exception. I looked the other way on a flaw that I should not have looked the other way on my mate. Well, guess what's happening if I look the other way and make an exception on that, and this person has way more kids than I got right now? Hell, am I actually ready to take on 20 more kids? And I'm still developing the 3 I got, in addition to the fact that I made an exception on this person and looked the other way as if that's not going to impede the relationship. So I ignored and made an exception, took this person in, brought him into the house, and all of they badass kids came right along with him. And if I'm going to have issues with the parent, you best believe I'm going to have issues with the kids. And it's a lot of kids, more than I'm ready to handle right now. So I took on Bebe and Bebe's kids. And so what do you think's going to happen? The sex was so good that I ignored all of the signs of an actual long-term relationship. Going back to what you said about the support that Khalid gave us. Khalid is a powerful person in terms of what he can deliver, speaking wise, and open your eyes up to issues that are going on. He could drop some powerful jewels. He was able to enhance the messages that we were trying to get out. So it sounds like it's a good thing. So again, using the example that I gave earlier about the relationship, the sex felt so good that I ignored everything else that goes into a relationship, and I did not put the relationship into a process like you should. I got a tunnel vision about one element that is very powerful, like we do all the time in relationships. The sex be so damn good that I'm ignoring the personality. I'm knowing how their cleanliness or uncleanliness. I'm ignoring all of these other things that go on because I am caught up on this one thing. And so that's the issue.
And let me, because you said the support that Khalid gave us. Khalid didn't give us support. Support would have been coming in and teaching us how to better formulate our movements. You know, or teaching classes about Kemet, about our past, developing the mind of the root. But what ended up happening is that his son shines so bright, and I ain't gonna lie, I love Khalid. When Khalid would talk, that shit was dope. Loved him on the CD, the music, everything. I was all with that. Was beautiful. But the reality of it is, the son that so many of us took us to be, or the son that took him to be, ended up causing us to reach too far up for that son, and ended up trying to rip our roots out of the ground. So we went from becoming a at least aspiringly grassroots organization to an organization that was attempting to operate way above the surface. And that was not what it was we were trying to do. We blew up. He didn't support what we were doing. He blew us up to a point that we could no longer focus on what the fuck we were doing. I gotta tell you, other than movements in the field, you know, and I know War and y'all had more conversations because y'all were actually over that area. I was just a guy. But Khalid, honestly, did not teach me shit. I gotta be real. Khalid was not, from what my experience was, the teacher guy. At least that wasn't the role. He may have been a great teacher, but the role I remember him for is motivation, inspiration, getting people hyped up. That's Khalid.
Yeah.
Now,
But he was a spokesman
behind the scenes, moving people
but-
around and whatnot. But like
Yeah.
you see Malcolm,
Yeah.
and he may have done this in the nation, but in the party, I never saw him once in one of those Malcolm poses where he's in front of a board writing things down and teaching a class. I never saw that from Khalid. That would have been support. That's not what we got. What we got was a ripping out of our roots for the sake of reaching for the limelight. We jumped up, and you gotta remember, all this Instagram and all of that shit where people are looking for attention and the limelight and all of that, that shit's not new. It's on steroids, it's at another level, but that same idea still existed back then.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of
Yeah.
cats that were next to Khalid because they wanted the limelight, Cornell and Malik and that dead guy who was ripping everybody off. I forget his name. What?
Say their name. Say their name.
Hashim
Pac say?
My bad.
He ain't
That's
gonna
the
pull
name.
no punches.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it. It is what it is.
For
That
the listening audience that does not know, Brother E will not pull any punches. So so I'm sorry if you're offended. Brother E
My
is
bad.
not gonna pull any punches. So
But yeah, he took us in the wrong fucking direction. Period. That's the bottom line. Bottom line.
I think this is what I say when I say he provided support. Is I looked at it as a spokesman. Khalid was a hell of a spokesman, and to me, a spokesman job is to provide inspiration, is to get you in the door, and then once you get in the door, what you're talking about, that development is from somebody else.
yeah.
So
why-
I think Khalid would have been a powerful spokesman, but even at that, with me saying that, you don't still make the exception. Just say we
Yeah.
would have not made him the national chairperson. He ain't supposed to. You don't make an exception to your process of how you verify somebody is good for that relationship. Again, there are a lot. Let me just say it like this, and I'm gonna stop with this whole sexual narrative. There are a lot of women out there that could probably have sex better than what I would say my current spouse is. But that does not mean that they are better for me as in a relationship. So you don't pick who your lifelong partner is based upon somebody being good or better at this one thing if they are not fit for you all around. If we can't enhance each other, if we can't complement each other, fuck that one thing. Everybody could be anywhere. There's always somebody better at one something, but that don't mean y'all are compatible. And so when you make an exception because you allow yourself to be duped out about one thing to the point to where it takes away your logical in your critical thinking, then you fucking up. We have to always be critical thinkers. We have to and we can't get starry-eyed of anything. So what? So the deal is you make the exception. To me, it's just, that's the bottom line. When an exception is made to a core principle of operation, you are opening the floodgates for your own demise. I just think that, to me, sums it all up. Everything that comes after that exception is a result of not making sure the right things or the right process is had before a person is even put into a position. It's no different than me making an exception. Let me just switch gears on that. If I'm gonna hand you a firearm and don't teach you how to use that firearm and ask you to point at something and shoot it, I ain't give you no parameters. I ain't took you through no process. I made the exception and just gave you that gun, and you turn around and shot me in my dome and killed me. What can I? What? Who fault is that? I handed you the goddamn loaded weapon. We handed Khalid the loaded weapon and did not even make sure he could he had safety training, yet alone could qualify to shoot the goddamn thing. And he did what anybody would do when they are brought in as an exception. I'm gonna do what I know how to do. I'm gonna do what I can do best. You ain't set no barriers with me. You just assume that I'm gonna get down with how things are.
And that's the reason I'm not even mad at Malik and Parnell and all of them. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I get that. I've understood that for a minute, but it's irritating. And that's new that this shit was going to happen. And we allowed it. We empowered it. We supported that happening more than it supported us happening. We did that shit. Period. You know, we went there, you know, even after y'all ass abandoned me and shit and left me by myself with Aaron and trying to figure out that back and forth dynamic and shit, I was still swinging. I went down, but damn it, they remember me. Somebody, I know Malik does. I know that because I wouldn't let it die. But yeah, we did that. And like I said, that's what pisses me off. We knew this shit was going to happen and we allowed that shit to happen. So yeah.
The one more, a couple other things, because he gave his feelings, his opinion, his thoughts on what Dr. Khalid did for the new Black Panther Party at that time. I would like to ask you your thoughts on that, what you think he did positive for the new Black Panther Party war, and if he would have lived, what direction do you think he was going in, or would have took the new Black Panther Party, or even if he even had a direction and was just trying to find another ship to get on? Because one thing that we do know from history, and that's one of the things that even confused Malcolm. As much as we love Malcolm, sometimes we hate, as much as we love El-Haj Malik Shabazz, sometimes we hate to admit that he was a person. He was a human being. And when he didn't leave the nation, he was kicked out of the nation. And he wanted to go back to the nation because the nation was his foundation, you know, and part of the reason he was kicked out of the nation is because while he was himself dedicated to the nation for being his foundation, he himself was learning other things. One of the people he was learning from was John Henry Clark. And I think that we all who have read anything from John Henry Clark or heard or read anything about John Henry Clark pretty much know that if you're sitting under the tutelage of John Henry Clark, your consciousness elevation is steady evolving. And Malcolm was outgrowing the rules and the parameters of the nation. Malcolm wanted to deal with politics, with political issues. And when I say politics, I even hate to use the word because our people have such a misunderstanding of what that means. They think when they hear politics, we're talking about voting, but Malcolm wanted to deal with the civil rights movement. Let's say that Malcolm wanted to deal with that black consciousness. He was even learning that the Arabic language, the Arabic religion, and even using the Arabic words was not us, as he was just saying about black liberation theology. He was learning this, so his things that he was talking about was changing. You can hear speeches, the Ballad of the Bullet, you know what I'm saying, Message to the Grassroots. You can hear him, and you can hear his dialogue changing from those religious tones that he came from the nation with to more things dealing with our society, things that were going on with the black community. He even felt like a coward to some degree, in his own words, when he wasn't allowed to go out in the streets and deal with those things like Martin Luther King was dealing with. Here it was, you had these nonviolent people dealing with things in the community, and he was criticizing them, but his organization wasn't dealing with things in the community. So that made him feel weak. So I said all that to say this. With Dr. Khalid being ousted from the nation, he would similarly feel a need to get his foundation back, get something up under him so that he wouldn't feel obsolete. Or if it was a rapper, get another album out. If it was a basketball player, get signed to another team and get back on the court. You know, where do you think Dr. Khalid was going, if he even had a plan, in your opinion, Brother War? because you was around operations. You was, that's another thing people got to understand about an organization. You have the boots on the field soldiers. You have different levels, and there were certain people that was in operations. So you was around operations. What is your thoughts on that, Brother Wall?
Well, I would say this: Khalid came to a realization that he couldn't control his kids, and that he needed help and support with those kids. And he started seeing that there needs to be a national training apparatus in place for the new Black Panther Party. And he was in the process of wanting to build a national headquarters for training members in Atlanta, Georgia. This is what was on his mind. This is actually one of the actual last conversation I had with him the night he got assassinated. And I say the word assassinated.
Oh no! Don't go into. I already got that on my notes to ask because he said it a while ago. So I already got it on my notes to ask.
That's gonna have to be a whole class. But let me just say this: I do think that in the course of starting this relationship off wrong, that there was some growth and there was some compromise and there was some learning that was taking place, and that there was a potential, and I can only say potential. There was a potential for things to get better. And I saw that Khalid was attempting to do that. Me and Khalid bumped heads a lot. But the thing that I will say about Khalid is that he listened, he respected and listened to the voice of reason. I was never a Khalid loyalist. I never, like E said, E, yourself, me, we already had a foundation. We was already doing Panther ideology. We did not need Khalid at any point in our relationship or coming across him for spiritual guidance or for discipline guidance or someone to look up to. We didn't need that. So he didn't have to serve in that capacity to us because we wasn't following a man. We didn't follow Aaron as it applies to that. Hell, that we were already on that path.
Yeah.
We knew we were Panthers. We knew what we needed to serve the community. We knew what that fucking shit meant. So that's so in that essence, when I'm having a conversation with Khalid about the work that needs to be done with Panthers, we having a mutual level conversation. He ain't above me, and I ain't below him. We talking on the same goddamn level. He just happens to be internationally famous. But what we talking about in the conversations me and Khalid are having, we able to go back and forth in terms of dialogue of what needs to happen. He recognized that in me. He recognized that I had what it takes to help raise his kids. And so that was one of the conversations we had. And then he died.
You want to be your next baby mama, huh?
Okay, so another question when you say that, when you get into that, and I know that that's a long detail, and we'll do a show and for us to really build on it. Y'all keep saying the word assassination. Dr. Khalid officially died of a brain aneurysm. We all went to the funeral. We all went to the grave site, put him in the ground. I remember he was buried at the same cemetery that Malcolm was buried at. I remember David Foreman taking some of the dirt from Dr. Khalid's grave and taking it to Malcolm's grave, taking some of the dirt from Malcolm's grave and taking it to Dr. Khalid's grave. So we was all there. Like I was trying to tell the brother I was speaking with at the conference, that I'm not telling you anything I read in a book. I was literally there. I was physically on the ground there doing this actual work. So why would y'all say he was assassinated? What is y'all thought process in that when it comes to that?
Hey, and I'm gonna let, because what is gonna be better on details and whatnot, but that David, brother David, the one the miscreants like to call Captain David, for him to do that, to take the sword from one to the other and the other to the one, was actually the essence. It was the purpose, the point, and the direction that we were working on when Khalid got there. Because when we first met David, that wasn't David's thing. David wouldn't have done that. That's some other level, metaphysical, like divine shit. And David was, as far as my understanding, was just a hood cat had gang affiliation, and came from that type of life and wasn't thinking about shit like that. But his growth process, in fact, the whole thing that you War was saying about the foundation, finding a foundation and getting a foundation, was a learning lesson, because that's exactly the reason that he gave for the way things went down. And y'all know what I'm talking about between me, him, Syke, and War, was the shaking of a foundation. And in reality, all of it was him expressing that his foundation was shaking, that his foundation was coming out attacking, was under threat, so to speak. But that's a testament to what it is we were working to do, was to shake the foundation of folks and develop the growth. And that's where we got stifled, So, but yeah, War, you, like I said, you know better the details of all that type of stuff. You had better conversations than those of us who were just on the ground.
Well, I would say this, and again, I would like us to bring somebody in that done some research on that. That would probably be the proper thing to do, because even myself, I haven't done the research. I didn't go and meet his family and get all dived into on that. But just, I would say this, the bottom line to the time it took from when he first passed out and the time for when the ambulance got there, under no circumstance should it take hours when somebody is non-responsive in their own household to finally get help or a 911 call. I am unresponsive and it is hours before an ambulance shows up. Something's wrong with that picture. Something is wrong. And mind you, you know that I'm unresponsive. So it's not like we all sleep and this happens. So there's issues with that. Some big issues with that. And then
I think the only issue with it is just the common sense of it. It's like the Epstein files. We know why Trump don't want to release those files. We know what it is. When there's a power struggle going on within an organization, especially ours, you know what it is. And all the conversation and all of this investigation, all this nonsense is an attempt to tie it up to buy time. And that's essentially, what went down. But yeah, go ahead. My bad, bro.
No, I didn't have a whole lot to add to that. It's just everything that surrounded what was taking place the day of, and how things ended that night. He was assassinated.
Well, I don't know the who put what ingredients in the gumbo, but I know for damn sure which motherfuckers had their hands in the pot, who was in the kitchen. So I don't need to have the recipe written out for me. I know what motherfuckers did. And that's that, period. Yeah. Not right. That what they did individually, I know what they did as a collective. And that's right. What it was. So I don't need to talk to the family and re-bring it up and all of this other stuff. And again, this is a part of having been there, and anybody that grown up in the streets or studied any type of the history of like monarchships and power control dynamics within organizations and nations and all of that shit, what the fuck happened. Fuck all of that conversation. What the fuck happened. Be done with it.
And I would like to, and I know we don't have the time now, but I would like to do a dedicated show where we just explore some of those theories, concepts, and ideas. Because I remember being on hiatus. When I was on my hiatus, it was a movie. I was watching a movie, but it literally jumped out at me while I was watching this movie. It literally jumped out at me. I mean, I jumped up off the bench. And everybody was like, "What's wrong?" And it was almost like an epiphany. But in the movie, they was I can't remember the name of the movie. It might come to me. But in the movie, these CIA agents had guns that shot sound waves. And the reason why they had these sound waves is because these sound waves could basically cause a heart attack. It could cause a brain aneurysm. They could literally shoot it through the wall and kill a person without there being no evidence of foul play. It looks like the person just simply died of a heart attack, or they died of a brain aneurysm, things like that. And that's not too far-fetched when you really think about it. Being that a sound wave, understanding that a sound wave could be tuned to such a level where it could cause certain vessels in your heart to pop or cause your, you know what I'm saying? That's not far-fetched for our government to be at, to have that level of technology.
That's common knowledge now.
Yeah.
That research is out there. You can go and see that this stuff exists. Hell, I mean, anybody can even go back and see what they tried to do to Fidel Castro in terms of all of the different assassination attempts, and see how feasible it is. And we talking something that was way before Khalid died. It is out there, people.
And you ain't even got to go back to Castro. I mean, cats are coming from Puerto Rico with mysterious, sound sickness and all this stuff. So that, I mean, it's been a part of the conversation currently that there are U.S. officials who were suffering this sickness, and everything looks like, it was some type of non-lethal weapon, they call it, the sound waves and all of that. So that shit, that's why I say it's fairly common knowledge that that shit, it's standard, it's routine, it's what they do now.
And let me say this about a book that I would suggest people will also read. It's called From the Old Guard to Vanguard, a second generation Panther, written by a brother named Malik Ishmael. He goes into, in his book, he goes into the elements, kind of some of the same stuff we talking about the mistakes that were made, and how the new Black Panther Party was already being developed and on a path before Khalid came in, and deals with what we're talking about to some degree as well. So the right history is out there about the origins of the new Black Panther Party. It's in a book. It's out there.
So we'll never see it then if it's in a book.
So the book of Khalid is not a book. It's not even a book meant to give you the history of the new Black Panther Party. It is talking about Khalid's life. And the majority of the book is before he got in the new Black Panther Party. So that wasn't even the intent of the book in the first place. So tell your folks to go tell your folks to go touch base with people like Malik Ishmael if they want to know some of the connecting narratives, some of the connecting stuff from the standpoint of, since they don't want to hear it from an actual Panther that's in the movement who they got access to, and it has to come from a book. Just tell them the right book to read.
One time motherfuckers reading the book, we gotta tell them don't read the book. Motherfucker.
And you could always watch Panther 48 videos, because one thing about it, we're not gonna hold the punches. Even when we try to, gonna punch anyway. So we go pretty much give it to you.
Here I am with my hands up, and he jumps over my shoulder and punched the motherfucker in the face anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun part.
Exactly. Another thing I want to say, because I know War would never say this, and we do this because, I mean, Huey P. Newton once said, if you want to be famous, you need to go to Hollywood. He said the Panthers places in the community, are stars places in Hollywood. You need to go be in the movies. And that's why they used to say the revolution would not be televised. Now we know it'll be streamed on a social media site, but the reason why they used to say the revolution would not be televised, because he just said it. Back then, it might not have been with this technology, but it has always existed. The desire to have the limelight, the desire to be famous, the desire to have all eyes on you. You had so many people jumping up, trying to be Malcolm, trying to sound like Bobby Seale, trying to sound like Eldridge Cleaver. You had so many people doing that back then. That's why they created the revolution would not be televised. If you people are just trying to get the limelight, you're in the wrong place, because it won't go down like that. When the revolution jumps out, won't be any cameras and television cameras to make you famous. That's what the concept was. And that's what we've been talking about here, is that when we were moving through Jasper, when we was pushing cars in Fort Worth to get the guy to not buy gas from the gas station where they had killed the kid over a soda bottle or whatever it was. It's been so long ago, I can't remember. When we was protesting in front of the Forest Hill Police Department because they had arrested Ian, took his weapon. When we were doing that stuff, we didn't even have an idea that we would be famous, that we would be posted on anywhere. We had no ideal of it. We were just doing what we believed in. You know, that's what was happening at that time. But I say all that to say another thing that I expressed to the couple of brothers is that being that we have been in the movement so long, I told him, I say, Brother War is somebody who is a living testament of Panther concepts, ideology, even a lot of the failures and the growth and the desire to keep building and going. The brother that served and operated on every coast. The brother that served in the South. The brother that served Panther tours all the way in Denver and Atlanta and California. The brother that served everywhere and participated in different levels and participated with different formations of the Panther, from the new Black Panther Party to the People's Black Panther Party to the Black Panther Party in San Diego right now. And I say that not to blow his head up or praise the brother or any of those things there. I say it to try to give people an understanding to how rich this history is that you're getting from the Panther 48. We might not be the famous people, but you're getting a rich, tenured and history from this. You're getting people that have been in this for an extremely long time. If you look at the introduction to the channel, you'll see Eve might not look like the same guy now because it's 30 years ago, but you'll see E marching with his rifle right next to Dr. Khalid Muhammad. He was the one keeping him safe. So you got to understand that you're talking to people that may not have wrote a book, but we have left footprints in the sand. That's one of the things that I think that needs to be understood. You know, and it's not saying that we're somebody special either. We're not saying that. We're not saying we're somebody special, but we kind of have a witness first point of view, a witness perspective of what happened, what took place, and we are the people that started building the foundation of the original New Black Panther Party, because I don't think anybody on this show right now would claim the New Black Panther Party as far as it is went now. But if you're truly serious about understanding that history, you know, you'll have to do research a little bit deeper than the Book of Common. It has to go a little bit farther than that. Go ahead.
I think you got to recall, when you considering your sources, Malcolm said the ballad or the bullet. He didn't say nothing about selling no books. If your hands are full with a rifle, you don't have no hands available to write no fucking book. So if you've had time to write a fucking book, for me at this point, that means you didn't have your hands full of dirt. You were steady taking notes so you could come up. So fuck that. We ain't writing no books. We ain't selling no books. I ain't got no benefits from no books. Warren Psych, if y'all got a book out there, you better tell me, because I want my cut. But we ain't got the shit that other motherfuckers whose pockets have gotten lined. Let's just fucking put it out there. It's motherfuckers that don't have to worry about if their mortgage is getting paid. That ain't us. I'm concerned about that shit. I know War and Psych are concerned about that shit, because we regular motherfuckers who did regular damn work. We didn't build and gain, and I'm not knocking it. Again, capitalism is a ugly, wonderful thing. It is. But when you consider your source, what the fuck are we getting out of saying this shit versus what is the other side getting out of saying the shit that they're saying? Again, if you got some sense, you know. You don't need to know whose finger is where, whose finger is on the trigger, and whose finger is wrapped around the pen. You know that already. So that's it.
I got another question, but I didn't want to take you too long. Well, I know you're actually in the field on the training.
I got 10 minutes.
Yeah, yep. I know you're on the training. And again, we're doing this show in Brother War. That's why you see his car, because he's actually in the field training his Panthers right now. He's still out there training his Panthers. So this is something that's consistent with people that's actually putting in the work and doing the work. This is the consistency of it. So essentially, to break it down with this last 10 minutes, one of y'all, can you give, I'm gonna ask for some. I know this is the most boring thing to do, but this is essential for people that have no clue. We have said, how many New Black Panther Parties, versions of the New Black Panther Party have existed? If y'all know or have any idea.
Damn, since its original. Yes. Since it's the original split, because I would say this, we always have to realize that every time there's a change of leadership, then oftentimes there may end up being a split, because somebody was following a person as opposed to the mission of the overall mission of what the organization was providing. So at this point, I know for certain there are over a dozen variations of new Black Panther Party out there, and that's unfortunate. But people will grasp one element, and then they may run with that, or they feel like they would be a better leader than the previous leader, mind you, not because they see flaws in the actual structure of the ideology. They see flaws within a certain leader, and so they are more concerned with being another iteration of a leader than they are with maintaining the development of where we should be headed. And oftentimes, instead of people that are not prepared for long-term relationships, instead of fighting through what you need to and just working on how y'all can better repair y'all's relationship and continue a healthy marriage, you take your ass off and you go deal with somebody else just to run into the same goddamn problems with another person because you're making exceptions there too. You ain't changed your actual issue, and you looking outward and thinking the problem is there. So the same thing, it continues to happen over and over again, and people are making the same mistakes over and over again because they are not growing. It kind of go back to me, the whole 360 full circle that we started it with. We recognize that we are all still growing. These two brothers, Brother Sight, Brother E, constantly putting a foot in my ass in terms of things that I'm actually doing out in the field. And I have to humble myself, shut the fuck up, and listen and learn from these two brothers. So even though I'm out here with, specifically with building chapters, don't mean that I got a foot over these two brothers, because everybody is adding their element. Everybody is contributing equally amongst the Panther 48 to do the work that we do for the people. And if I am not have enough critical consciousness and awareness as a Panther to see and respect everybody that is doing the work in some capacity, that has the ability to bring something to the table, and I can learn and grow from them. If I'm not in a position where I'm ready to continue to grow as a person, I need to step my ass back, and I don't need to be in a relationship. I just need to be by my damn self. That's the bottom line. Going back to that initial exception. If I am not prepared for a actual relationship, then be by myself on that note.